Arneytown, New Jersey in 2022 is a quiet, small town on the edge of the Pine Barrens. From 1775 to 1783, the area was locked in a heated battle between British Loyalists and American Patriots during the Revolutionary War. At the same time, New Jersey experienced a civil war in which the state was bitterly divided. There were even two governors. British appointed William Franklin, son of Benjamin Franklin, and Patriot Governor William Livingston. The Pine Barrens were ground zero for this form of the war, as they were the hub for illegal trading with British-held New York, while Patriots engaged in successful privateering. Governor Franklin helped found the Board of Associated Loyalists, which was sanctioned by King Charles to interfere with coastal trading and privateering of the rebellious colonies. As a result, the notorious pine robbers plagued the area with fear and outnumbered the Patriots, who were vulnerable to their attacks. The infamous pine robbers were led by Captain John Bacon, who was reportedly personally selected by Franklin. He is a sharp contrast to the peace and beauty of modern-day Arneytown.
Now you may be asking, who was John Bacon, and what did he do to earn this reputation?
Bacon's life is shrouded in mystery, with a lack of documentation and many accounts of him based on word of mouth. It was not until 1775, when he was sued in Monmouth County for debt, that he made his first appearance in public records. Bacon does not reappear until 1780, leaving a 5-year gap of more mystery of his whereabouts and actions as the war raged on. Until this point, he appears to be an average person living an ordinary life with little known to society and history. His resurfacing in 1780 was for charges by the Monmouth County Grand Jury as voluntarily and unlawfully entering enemy-held New York. At this time, he is reported to live in Stafford Township, working as a farmer and shingle maker. Shortly after December 1780, the prominent families of Shreve and Newbold were robbed in Springfield, Burlington County. While Bacon is not explicitly identified, he could have been among the group.
These robberies created Bacon's primary nemesis and adversary in the Shreve family. Captain Richard Shreve's Burlington County Light Horse Militia Unit and Captain Edward Thomas's detachment of the Mansfield Militia had the sole purpose of scouring the pines for Bacon.
On December 20th, 1780, 3 men were preparing to return from New York to Egg Harbor Township after selling provisions, since locals could fetch a higher price from the British. Bacon reportedly asked or possibly demanded transportation to Dover Township, to which the men agreed. As they approached Cranberry Inlet off the coast of Toms River, Lieutenant Joshua Studson, who was a prominent Patriot military man, stood in his boat and demanded their surrender.
As the story goes, the 3 men supported the idea of surrendering. However, Bacon, who Studson could not see, stood and fired, killing him. Bacon and the 3 men escaped in the dark.
After Studson's murder, Monmouth County charged Bacon in July 1780 with falsely and traitorously preparing, ordering, waging, and levying a public and cruel war against the state of New Jersey, and that they assisted and supported British troops. He was indicted again in January 1781 with an unspecified charge that was likely related to going behind enemy lines. Between May and December of 1781, the number of people affected by Bacon increased. Despite his violent reputation, Bacon never harmed any woman. Other incidences include John Harris, whose borrowed team of 5 horses were stolen, Samuel Bigelow's home in Burlington County was robbed, John Holmes and John and William Price had their homes plundered, Captain Reuben Randolph escaped after being tied to a tree, Silas Crane was shot trying to escape his home, Joseph and Reuben Soper experienced his harassment and night attacks so frequently that they often slept in a swamp off Leoshel Creek. A rumor spread around the town of Manahawkin on December 30th, 1781, that Bacon and his gang intended to plunder and rob the town. Captain Reuben Randolph quickly assembled some local militia from his inn and posted them on watch around the edge of town. Around dawn, the Patriot soldiers posted near the Old Baptist Church heard a large party approaching from the north in the direction of Barnegat.
They sounded the alarm, but it was too late, and Bacon was already upon them.
Linus Pangborn was shot and killed, while Sylvester Tilton was seriously wounded. Later that month, Bacon was arrested around February 1782 with charges of murder and high treason. He was likely taken to the Monmouth County Courthouse jail. It is unclear how long Bacon was in custody, but by late summer 1782, he escaped and was back to his normal activities. He was among 3 who stole a large sum of public money at night from the house of Thomas Fenimore, who was the Burlington County collector. On September 2nd, a Patriot captain, John Davis, attacked a boat full of refugees in Little Egg Harbor. 4 refugees escaped, and it is indicated Bacon was among them. Around the same time, Bacon and his men attacked the militia at Wading River Bridge. Bacon appears to have run an operation similar to the Underground Railroad in the Pine Barrens for wanted loyalists. Captain Richard Shreve with the Burlington County Light Horse was in hot pursuit. They checked the area of Clamtown and Little Egg Harbor on October 8, 1782, but once again failed to capture Bacon, who remained elusive.
If the Patriots thought Bacon was an outlaw and criminal before, he was about to seal his fate in history as Bloody John Bacon. In October 1782, a British privateer captured a ship carrying almost $23,000 worth of supplies that was traveling from Belgium to the West Indies.
The ship ran aground on October 22nd at the northern end of Long Beach Island, a desolate barrier island at the time. The Patriot captain, Andrew Steelman, and his crew sailed their ship, the Alligator, to privateer the stranded vessel. They unloaded the cargo onto the beach before building fires and preparing to spend the night. Bacon, who had a network of informants in the area, learned of Steelman's activities. He sailed in his boat, the Hero's Revenge, along with 9 Tories to where the Patriots were staying. Bacon and his crew stabbed the sleeping men, killing Steelman, Reuben Soper, and most of the others, while seriously wounding the few survivors. Bacon reportedly sent the few wounded survivors to a doctor instead of capturing them. He stole and sold the Alligator to the British in New York. At this time, America and Great Britain were engaged in peace talks, and therefore it was expected aggression should halt, leading Bacon to be condemned by both sides. The Barnegat Light Horse was once again in pursuit, this time at Waretown, while a group of Gloucester County militia traveled to Barnegat and were guided to the home of Bacon's father-in-law. While they did not find Bacon, they found his father-in-law's home full of British traitors. In December, Governor Livingston issued a proclamation placing rewards for the conviction of Bacon and 2 of his accomplices. At the end of December 1782, under the command of Lieutenant Benjamin Shreve, 18 from the Burlington County Light Horse joined with Captain Edward Thomas's Mansfield Township militia in their search for Bacon. Yet again, he was not where they were informed. Upon their return to Monmouth County, they stopped at a tavern near Cedar Creek Bridge on December 27th.
A bunch of Patriots were staying at the tavern, which was right over here. They were on their way out, they were leaving, and that's when they saw John Bacon coming across what used to be the Cedar Bridge. And they confronted each other. They fired at each other across the way, and the reason we actually have an idea of where everybody was, relatively speaking, is because we found the round balls that they fired. That was what the ammo was that was in the muskets at the time. Some of them were found right around this area. This tree wasn't here at the time, but this was still the spot where they were. And across the way, right over by the bridge, that's where we found some more. There were loyalists, besides the militia, on John Bacon's side, that actually came to his aid during the fight, and we believe that some of them came right from the tavern, because if we're talking really, really local, they were loyalists as well, and they would want to help them out.
Shreve charged on horseback across the bridge and through the Loyalist group. While he was returning to his men through the pines, some of the militia continued to fight, but they quickly fell back. Bacon did not pursue, but instead escaped with his surviving men. Ichabod Johnson was killed. Among the Patriots, William Cook Jr. was killed, Robert Reckless was seriously injured, and later succumbed to his injuries, while several others were injured.
In the grand scheme of the war, even though this was the last battle, the serious impact was kind of minute. But for John Bacon personally, it was really the beginning of the end.
On December 28th, Colonel Israel Shreve informed Governor Livingston of threats from Bacon along the coast and called for the Monmouth County militia to join in the search to find Bacon. Colonel Shreve formed 3 groups to scout the area for suspects. They captured a man by the name of Thomas Bird. He was a significant individual in Bacon's gang. Meanwhile, Shreve continued to Clamtown. This militia group arrested Joe Crummell. He transported Bacon and his wounded to a swamp near Manahawkin. After hearing a group of bandits robbed a man and plundered a brig, Colonel Shreve headed in that direction. But they were too late and the group escaped by boat. Bacon once again slipped through Shreve's grasp, likely hiding out in one of his many lairs to heal. The Shreves and many others remained on the hunt for Bacon, but little was heard of him. On February 4th, 1783, Britain declared a cessation of hostilities. Time was running out to get Bacon, as the Patriots waited for the official declaration of peace from America and New Jersey. Joel Cook, who is related to William Cook, killed at the Cedar Bridge Tavern, wanted revenge. He approached Captain John Stewart of Arneytown, and they formed a patrol with several others to hunt down Bacon. On April 3, 1783, they discovered Bacon alone at William Rose's public house in West Creek. Surrounding the building, Stewart peered through a window and saw Bacon sitting at a table with his gun between his knees. Charging in, Stewart aimed his musket at Bacon and demanded his surrender. Bacon attempted to aim his musket at Stewart, who wrestled him to the ground, at which time Bacon surrendered. Holding on to Bacon, Stewart rose to his feet, supposedly with his back to the door, which Joel Cook entered through. Cook stabbed Bacon with the bayonet, unbeknown to Stewart and the other members of the group. Bacon appeared faint and fell to the floor, at which time Cook left the cabin. Suddenly recovering and jumping to his feet, Bacon knocked Stewart down and ran for the back door, but Stewart pushed a table in front of the door, which Bacon shoved aside. Once again, back on his feet, Stewart shot Bacon, killing him instantly. This bullet went through the door and injured Cook on the other side. The patrol tossed Bacon's body into a wagon and began the journey to Jacobstown and Arnie's Mount, where they intended to bury his body beneath the intersection of the public highway, so his soul would have no rest. Bacon's body was paraded through the street of Manahawkin. Along the way, a dispute occurred between Cook and the other soldiers over the number and type of wounds Bacon had, as they did not believe he was stabbed. They stopped at Mount Misery to examine his body, where it was discovered he had a bullet wound and stab wounds. As the procession approached the town, news of Bacon's death spread and the neighborhood came to life. By the time Bacon's body arrived, a large crowd had gathered. The crowd watched as his body was being lowered beneath the street when his unnamed brother, and some accounts mention his widow, arrived and pleaded for his body for private burial. The Patriots relented and turned over the body of their nemesis. Bacon was reportedly buried on the edge of the Upper Freehold Township Friends Burial Ground in Arneytown. While Bacon was saved from being buried beneath the intersection in Arnie's Mount, some accounts say the road beside the Arneytown Cemetery was widened in later years and Bacon still ended up beneath the street. 11 days after Bacon's death, Governor Livingston officially declared a cessation of hostilities, making Bacon the last recorded casualty of the Revolutionary War. Today, it is still easy to imagine Bacon and his gang lurking among the shadows of the dense forest of the Pine Barrens. Relics and landmarks of the Revolutionary War and Captain John Bacon are scattered throughout Ocean County.
While some argue Bacon was a loyalist and privateer acting legitimately in the name of Great Britain, others believe he was an opportunistic criminal who was taking advantage of the lawlessness and chaos of the war. And some say he was both, a loyalist who sometimes went too far. So who was the real John Bacon? We'll likely never know.